So I have this Pfister 26 Series Avalon faucet, a single control faucet, and it started leaking. It started dripping here, and it started dripping up through the control here onto the countertop. And in the instructions, it talks about taking the handle off in step 22, and then in step 23, removing the control body, this part number 23C or this number 23C, by just twisting it off. And then once you get this control body off, you can take off this retaining washer to get the cartridge out. The problem is, I couldn't get this control. I got the handle off. I could not unscrew and twist off the control body to get to the cartridge. I called Pfister. They said we'd send out a new cartridge, and I said, I couldn't get the control body off, and I even tried to use a pipe wrench, and I told them that I had damaged the finish here on the control body with the pipe wrench, and so they end up sending me a whole new one out. Pfister has a lifetime guarantee. I just had to take a picture of the faucet and send that to them, and then they sent me out a new one. And so I have the new one here, and as it turns out on the new one, sure enough, this control body here is very loose. It just turns really easy on here. So what I'm going to do before I install this whole new one into the sink, counter rather, I'm going to take the handle off. It requires a 3/32 Allen wrench on the back here. There's a little hole in the back of it, and you put the wrench down and unscrew a little set screw, and then this lifts straight up off the top of the cartridge, just like it says in the instructions on step 22. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew this control body off of the threads that it's threaded onto, and I'm going to put on a little never seize on there. I'm going to open this up, and it has a little paintbrush on the end of it, and I'm going to brush on a little never seize, and then put it back together, screw it back down on, and hopefully if the cartridge ever does need to be replaced, or the washer that's inside there needs to be cleaned a little bit, but sometimes the washer gets a little, the O-ring and that's down in there sometimes starts to get dirty, and water leaks around it. Sometimes if you just take that out and clean that O-ring, then it will just stop leaking. So I'm hopeful that the never seize will prevent that from locking up on that. So I get the control body off to get the controls, the cartridge out, just like it says in step 23 of the instructions. Now that's it for now. I just wanted to, let's say, maybe try to put some never seize on there and see if it'll help in the future. Okay, so here it is with the control body unscrewed. There are a few threads right here that it screws onto. I am going to put the never seize on there, a little coating of never seize. And then this is the retaining screw up here, the retaining part where you put a wrench on and crank that open to get the cartridge out. The cartridge sits down inside of here. And that's the part that has a O-ring underneath it that sometimes can start leaking, or the cartridge itself needs to be replaced. So hopefully putting on the never seize on these threads will help me if I ever need to fix on this to be able to get this control body off of the control itself. Okay, so now as another idea here, when I put this control body back on and then the handle itself, I had a real hard time, even though this set screw was loose on this handle, I had a real hard time lifting this handle up and off. It's a little square fitting down in there inside the handle that sits down on top of this square part, okay, on the top of the cartridge here. So I'm going to apply a little, I mean, right now it slides on real easy. You know, I just push on and pull off, and no problem. But I had a real hard time. I just pull with all my strength and hardly could get it to come off of that old one. So I'm going to put a little film of never sees on this plastic here, on this part down here. And so as I set this down on here and use the set screw to lock into this little part here, and when I loosen that set screw up, this will come off easier next time. All just ideas. We'll see if it makes any difference in the long run. Okay, so now I've painted on a little coating of never sees on that part, and I also dabbed it down in here. And I just want one last comment that the never sees that's on the threads down in here and this never sees on here will not have any negative impact on any of the flow of the water. The water will kind of come into the control body, hot and cold, and then go out to the faucet. And this will not affect the water at all. This is just for the mechanical parts that are operating the control valves, the shut-off valves inside here, inside the control body. So just there should be no concerns here of what we're doing. Okay, and just as a final description of how bad the problem was, when I tried to crank this control body off with the pipe wrench, and you can see how the teeth marks here ruined the finish on there. I had another wrench on this part down here and trying to crank this off from this, and this control body never came off. What did unscrew was this part unscrewed from the base of the control body. So this piece here was so frozen onto those threads that I could not get it off. And what did unscrew was this part from the whole control body itself. So when I told them at Pfister that I damaged this and couldn't get this off, because you need to get this off to get to the cartridge and replace the cartridge, and I told them that, she put me on hold and talked to her supervisor, and they sent me out a whole new faucet, all the parts, everything. Even though I only needed the one, they sent me the whole thing, brand new, and I only really needed to replace the cartridge to solve my leaking problem. But so then a 10-minute job or so became a huge problem to replace that whole control body itself under the sink and all the lines and everything. It was just so I think that the never sees on the new one is going to be a real help in the future.